I still remember stepping off the plane, the air carrying a faint perfume of rain and possibility, a soft hum of the city waiting for me to discover it. The streets were alive, yet gentle, and I felt a little flutter in my chest as I realized that I had arrived somewhere both new and strangely familiar. Cobblestones glistened with the last whispers of a drizzle, and the world seemed to slow down just enough for me to take a deep, satisfying breath. I wandered instinctively, letting the rhythm of Paris guide me, listening to the soft chatter of people walking past, the distant ring of bicycle bells, the occasional bark of a dog somewhere just around the corner. The smell of fresh bread drew me first, warm and inviting, from a tiny boulangerie tucked between two tall ivy-clad buildings. I bought a croissant, golden and flaky, and I swear it melted in my mouth in a way that made my heart pause. I took my first bite slowly, savoring both the pastry and the moment, noticing the way the soft morning light kissed the street, how the misty drizzle made the colors of the city even more vivid, as if Paris had its own palette of muted blues, soft grays, and warm golden tones. I wandered along the Seine, letting my feet carry me as the river reflected the sky's soft blush. Lovers strolled hand in hand, and I felt a quiet thrill of joy for them, for the simplicity of their closeness, for the way the city made love feel almost tangible, almost visible in the air. Artists sat on the banks with their easels, painting quietly, and I marveled at how the ordinary could feel so extraordinary here, how every single moment seemed soaked in a gentle poetry I could feel even without words. The architecture drew me in next, tall and elegant, leaning slightly as though whispering secrets across the streets. Balconies with wrought iron railings, flower boxes spilling blooms, rooftops stretching in soft waves above narrow lanes. Even the lampposts seemed to hum with history, casting their soft glow onto cobblestones that had felt the footsteps of countless generations. I tilted my head up and smiled, feeling small, yet part of something much bigger, as though Paris itself had reached out and wrapped me in a quiet embrace. I found a cafe tucked into a corner and settled at a tiny table outside, letting the world pass around me. The aroma of espresso mingled with sweet pastries, and the soft murmur of conversation became a warm backdrop, like a lullaby of city life. I watched people as they went about their mornings, noticing how even the smallest gestures, the way a waiter poured coffee, the way someone laughed over a newspaper, the way a child tugged at a parent's hand, felt rich with life, textured with meaning, alive in a way that made my heart swell. As the sun climbed higher, I wandered further, discovering streets I hadn't planned to see, corners that felt like little treasures. There was a tiny bookshop with a wooden door, the smell of old paper and ink curling around me as I stepped inside. I ran my fingers along spines that had held stories for decades, and I thought about all the readers who had come before, imagining their quiet moments of escape, their laughter, their tears. I bought a small book, more for the memory of the place than anything else, and stepped back into the sunlight, feeling a soft happiness that settled into my bones. The hours passed like a gentle dream. I wandered Montmartre, up narrow, winding streets that felt almost hidden from the rest of the world, discovering murals, tiny squares, street performers who played music that made the air shimmer. I paused at the Sacré-Cœur, sitting on the steps and gazing out over the city, the rooftop stretching endlessly, the Seine glinting like a silver ribbon. I thought about how vast the world is, and yet, in this moment I felt perfectly at home, perfectly present. Lunch was a simple affair. A plate of quiche and a glass of crisp white wine at a small bistro where the owner greeted me like a friend. The sunlight streamed through the windows, warming my face, and I noticed the way the shadows of the chairs stretched across the floor, the way laughter bounced off the walls. Every bite was comforting, familiar yet new, and I realized that Paris had a way of taking ordinary experiences and infusing them with quiet magic, turning even a simple meal into a memory I would carry with me forever. In the afternoon, I found myself along the banks of the Seine again, watching boats glide lazily past, their reflections trembling in the water. I walked slowly, stopping at bridges, tracing the stone with my hands, marveling at the way centuries of love notes, padlocks, and whispered promises had accumulated there. Children leaned over railings, parents held their hands tightly, and the water carried it all gently downstream, as if Paris itself knew how to hold both history and hope in perfect balance. I discovered hidden courtyards, where cats lounged in sunbeams and fountains gurgled quietly, where the walls were painted in colors that seemed to glow from within. I imagined the lives of the people who had lived there, walked there, loved there, and I felt a quiet connection, a sense that I had stumbled into a place that had always existed in my imagination, waiting for me to arrive. Evening arrived, soft and golden, and the city transformed once more. Lights flickered on in windows, the Eiffel Tower began its gentle shimmer, and the air was scented with flowers, bread, and a hint of night's coolness. I wandered through the Marais, past boutique shops and bakeries, past laughter and music, feeling the city pulse like a heartbeat beneath my feet. I stopped on a quiet bridge to watch the reflection of lights in the water, and for a moment, it felt like the entire city exhaled with me. Dinner was at a small restaurant, tucked away on a side street, candles flickering softly on each table. I savored every bite, a simple coq au vin that felt like it had been cooked with decades of care and love. Around me, conversations flowed, a symphony of voices, and I felt connected, part of a living, breathing organism that valued beauty, warmth, and the simple joy of being together. Afterward, I wandered the streets again, letting the night carry me. The city was quieter now, softer, more intimate. Streetlights cast pools of gentle light. The sounds of distant music and laughter floated in the air, and I felt a profound gratitude, a deep, gentle love. I realized that Paris had crept into my heart not with a single dramatic moment, but with hundreds of little ones. The smell of bread, the laughter of strangers, the warmth of sunlight on stone, the quiet reflection of the Seine. I found a tiny park, sitting on a bench beneath an ancient tree, watching the moonlight spill over the lawns, the faint chatter of night walkers floating in the air, the gentle rustle of leaves, the soft splash of a fountain, the distant echo of footsteps on cobblestones. Every detail felt amplified, alive, magical. I thought about all the quiet moments in life that we sometimes overlook, and I realized that Paris had a way of reminding you to notice, to breathe, to feel. Morning came gently, with the soft chirp of birds and the distant hum of the city waking up. I opened my window to a street bathed in golden light, watched a baker roll out dough in the shop below, and smiled. I stepped outside, coffee in hand, and wandered once more through empty streets, feeling the city breathe around me. I noticed the way the morning light spilled onto stone facades, the delicate pattern of shadows, the way the air felt crisp and clean, carrying the faint scent of flowers from a nearby garden. Markets came next, and I wandered slowly through rows of fresh produce, cheese, bread, and flowers. The vendors greeted me warmly, their voices melodic, the colors of their stalls dazzling, vibrant, almost alive. I paused at a stall selling fresh lavender, inhaled deeply, and felt a joy so simple, so complete, that it seemed to bloom in my chest. I sampled small bites of cheese and fruit, exchanged smiles with strangers, and felt the quiet rhythm of life that Paris celebrates every single day. I explored tiny galleries, discovered hidden statues, and ducked into quiet churches where the scent of incense lingered. I lit a candle, whispering a soft, private hope, and watched as the flickering light reflected in the stained glass, creating a kaleidoscope of colors across the stone floor. I thought about the centuries of people who had paused here, like me, seeking quiet reflection, seeking connection, seeking a moment to breathe. Evening arrived again, this time with a gentle chill in the air. I walked along the Seine, listening to the faint music of street performers, watching boats glide past, and felt the city settle around me like a soft, familiar blanket. I paused to watch the Eiffel Tower sparkle against the night sky, feeling a soft awe, a quiet reverence, a love that settled deep in my chest.